Today's episode is brought to you by the type of people who only like to do the bare minimum.
Drop the beat.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to High Noon Podcast, the competitive Overwatch podcast. I am your host, the Blevins, and with me, as always, is Deathblow. What's up, buddy?
Not too much, man. How are you? Just a heads up, you're peaking a little bit.
I'm peaking. Okay, we're gonna not scream into the mic, but yeah. I'm doing well. Besides that,
we're doing well in a restrained manner.
In a restrained manner, yeah. We've, if you can't tell, in the video or audio, we've got a little bit of technical kerfuffles, but we're running late, so we're doing it live. To quote a former Fox News host, but yeah, we're rocking the Winstons today, and we're on weird, or at least I'm on weird mic audio stuff. But that is all going to lead into what I actually did this week and what we're more specifically what we're not
hearing. Cue the shame bell.
What we are not hearing, because there is no need for shame bells, because I did my placement matches.
Yeah, I couldn't let you get away with it completely. I mean, I still had to dig you a little bit with what the episode's brought to you by, as you are sitting at 10 of 10 games played, but that's way better than the 0 of 10 that you've been at. And as somebody that participated in a small handful of those at the beginning, and then watched you stream the end, I got to say, you ended up placing pretty well.
Yeah, I'm actually very pleased at how I placed. I ended up placing at 2,400, which is, I think, maybe 200 points lower than my peak last season. I think I got to 26. I might not have even got to 26, but like I definitely did not get into I definitely wasn't at 3,000. That I know for a fact. But yeah, having taken multiple, weeks, if not months off, essentially, and after playing, going 5 and 5 in my placements, getting to 2,400 actually felt really good.
Yeah, I'm definitely happy to see that. Also, what I did this week partially included starting to level my third account up to 25 so that I can use it for hard carries and playing with people that are supremely low rank. Like I have some old college friends that have never been even remotely competitive gamers, but are like starting to get into the game a little bit, and I'd like to be able to play with them. So, I mean, I'm going for a third account. I might be able to take that rating of yours to diamond, though, if you want, once I do get that going.
Yeah, I've got to say that, I was definitely not as enthused to play Overwatch as I was, but playing the placement matches honestly kind of gave it back. After a while, it starts to build upon itself. It's like, oh, I'm going to be bad when I play, which I was pretty bad. But I picked up Zarya again, and it just felt good after, I think after we played the first match we played was pretty bad, if I recall correctly. It was I think we had either a lever or someone was just doing really, really poorly, and it just felt really bad. I'm like, yep, this is what it is, guys. And then we played the next two and won pretty handily, and I started to get a groove with Zarya. I think we went, what were we, Zarya Tracer, and just we're styling on kids for a while, which felt pretty good. And then we had some teammates that were actually trying, so it felt pretty good. The one thing I will say is that playing your replacement matches this late was a lot better than I thought it was going to be, because a lot of people are playing on their Smurfs to rank their Smurfs. So I basically ended up playing with a bunch of good players. So that's good.
Yeah, and my Smurf was I was literally for weeks keeping it right outside diamond. Like, I won't do it. And then you hit, and it was like later that night, I put it in diamond. So
Yep.
I was making an active effort. Like, I think I joined and left like 3 games just so I'd negative 50. Like, it was bad. It was tough to keep it there. That's part of the reason why I'm going for that third account, because I didn't pay for the second one. I just took over someone's inactive account.
Yep.
So I didn't, it wasn't like, oh, I don't want to pay for a third one. It's not. It's just paying for the second one.
Yep.
And it'll just be really, really convenient. Plus, it's got the best name ever. It gets
What
way
is the
more
name?
like people quoting it. Glen Coco.
Oh yes, that's right. Yep.
So people get a lot of kicks out of that. So that's pretty fun.
I'm in love with Glen Coco.
I don't think that's the reference.
I think it retroactively is. But yeah, besides that, I've been playing slightly less Clash Royale, but still a lot. And I started playing this other mobile game called Star Wars Force Arena, which is actually quite good. Do suggest it.
Remind me about it later. You're lucky it's Star Wars related. I'm willing to try it, but I hope it's bad.
It's actually not bad, so you might not want to start playing it. It's actually quite good.
You've guaranteed I'm going to try it now, and
Yeah.
just stop telling me about these things.
So imagine if you had Clash Royale, but you had a League of Legends style hero that you controlled instead of just being like on top of the map and placing things. And it's a Star Wars hero.
Yeah, I'm already got my tablet out.
Yeah. But it looks like we already know what Death is going to do next week or this week. But let's talk about what you guys did last week. And we have a new Rudism video. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with Rudism is, I want to just say, mad scientist or a mad engineer, I guess, who makes all these really crazy controllers. Notably, he played Symmetra with a microwave. He played Winston with literal bananas. He played Hanzo with a Nerf gun, and I think there's another couple ones too, right?
Yeah, there were. He played Hanzo with the Nerf. I don't know if you said that or not, but there's definitely a couple things there that he's done in the past. Even other games too, like Guitar Hero with a Guitar Hero controller for Rocket League was really interesting to watch. So he's got no shortage of creativity. So if you have an idea, send it to him. He'll probably do it if it's a good one.
Yeah. So, Death, do you want to talk a little bit about this new one, something with Doritos?
Yeah, I only caught a clip of it on Facebook, but it was just really, really funny. I mean, it was very similar to the banana Winston thing, where I think he just had to touch them, but obviously a little frailer when you're clipping Doritos and using them as buttons and being reactive. So they were like breaking, and he'd have to fix it on the fly. It was definitely a lot of fun to watch, and always it's just so funny when he gets those big plays, using the weird controller, and how hard it must be to adapt to it, and yet he's still able to, if not get play of the game, at least get something highlight worthy.
Yeah, I mean, you really only need one clip for that to be just outstandingly worth it, and
right.
So that's definitely a good one. Another video that I forgot to link for the show, but I remember seeing on Facebook, was Jeff Kaplan actually did a video for IGN where he answered people. He basically responded to reviews that people left in the IGN comment section for Overwatch, and it is quite funny because it's done in that style of like late night host, where they what's the thing called, mean tweets to celebrities that I think that Jimmy Kimmel or one of those late night hosts does. It's pretty funny, and it kind of felt like that. So definitely check that out. The links to both those videos will be in the show notes. But let's move on to another favorite section of the show.
Overwatch Today, Meme of the Week.
Overwatch Today, Meme of the Week, which actually reminds me, guys, Overwatch Today teamed up with Croak to bring back and revitalize the Overwatch Today podcast. So check that out over on Overwatch Today's either Instagram or Twitter or wherever his good stuff is. Just search Overwatch Today, you'll find it. I was watching it live, and they were talking actually about High Noon Podcast. We actually got mentioned. We're part of their brought to you by is us actually, which is kind of cool. But they have a real today's episode brought to you by thing, unlike ours. Though it actually is real. But the the meme of the week today is a little bit of a riff on one of my favorite types of memes. It is what looks like, is that a mouse or maybe a headset?
I'm not even super sure. It's just,
it might even be a PC, but it's a PC, and it's got like a red like X looking star thing on it, and zoomed in, and it looks like Reinhardt's shield or Reinhardt's face, and it just says "Get behind me." It's like it's a play on the I need healing memes, which are seriously just my favorite memes. Every single time it gets me. It's funny every single time.
Yeah. I knew it was your favorite, and when I saw it, I'm like, this 100% has to be it, if for nothing else, because I know it'll make him laugh when he looks at the notes.
Yeah, I actually did see that. I look at Instagram all the time, so I see Overwatch Today stuff. But I did catch that one, so it's pretty good. And it is of note that on the Overwatch Today podcast, he has an Overwatch Today meme of the week section. So.
God, he stole our bit.
He stole the bit that we stole for. It's like thiefception.
Right? It's his entire bit. Like his whole page is just got the dankest Overwatch memes.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
That's super funny. Is it the same clip?
I don't think he used the clip.
It should be Overwatch Today's. Yeah, never mind. Say meme of the week brought to you by High Noon Podcast. But we don't do any of them. We don't make a single one of them, so it doesn't work at all.
But I could. We'll talk. If Overwatch Today, if you need me to record a voiceover for something, I will do it. You also retroactively have permission to use any other things that you can clip from the show.
Yeah.
Just free pass. Just free pass at all times. But let us move on to another section of the show.
It's tournament talk.
We've only got one tournament to talk about today, but it was a pretty big one. It was the Rivalcade Overwatch Rumble, and this was this tournament that we had been talking about, or we're previewing the last couple of weeks. Had a lot of named teams, a lot of teams invited. Just to recap really quick, we had Rogue, Rise Nation, Complexity, CLG, Immortals, Cloud9, Tempo Storm, Gale Force Esports, Selfless, Luminosity, LG Evil. You guys get paid. Envision, OW, Envious, Splice, Liquid, and NRG. I believe half of those teams were invites and half were qualifiers, I think.
That sounds right. Yeah, I believe we had 8 teams we listed off before.
I'm pretty sure. So we had you guys get paid, Liquid, Envision, CLG maybe, Tempo Storm, and Gale Force, I think, qualified, while the rest of the teams were invited. But regardless, we saw in the playoffs, we saw Rogue, Rise Nation, Immortals, Cloud9, Selfless, LG Evil, Envious, and Splice into the playoffs. Really not too many surprises, although I was kind of disappointed to not see Liquid make the playoffs. They had been making a really good run, but Liquid, they're just so day dependent on whether they're going to be great or not. Like, it's never a consistent thing with Liquid.
And it's really hard to pinpoint what went wrong here, because the group stages were not entirely on stream like we've seen in the past with Carbon and things like that. The group stages was Saturday and the finals was on Sunday. So it was definitely on the quicker side of things. And we had, that was basically the group of death too. They all played each other once, and it went from there. It works out that one team has to be 3-0, another one has to be 2-1, another one has to be 1-2, and another one has to be 0-3. And that group D was Envious, Splice, Liquid and NRG. And I agree with you. I definitely wanted to see Liquid get in there. Splice was the team I thought they should have had the opportunity to beat, that maybe they weren't kind of, or I'm sorry, they should have been favored over. So I guess that was really kind of the upset match, and I don't recall seeing it, so I'm assuming it happened off stream.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even call that necessarily an upset. I mean,
No.
Splice, formerly Kungarna, depending on the week that we're talking about, I would have said the other way around. So honestly, that's really kind of a coin flip.
Definitely, this is probably the first week you'd have maybe even considered putting Liquid above them, and that just coming off that strong performance last week.
Not the first week I would have put them there. The first week I should have put them there.
Right, you would have been right to do so. And when you look at some of the other groups, though, I mean, the teams that didn't make it, Complexity, CLG, Tempo, Gale Force, you guys get paid, and Vision. So I mean, those are definitely kind of the tier 2 right now. So everything kind of went as planned, but Group D was the one where anything could have happened. I mean, the star power on NRG could have clicked for a day. Somebody could have been hot, and it would have been them winning that group easily. Especially we hadn't seen Envy compared to them, and we might as well just go ahead and spoil the news, because I don't know how we talk about this tournament without mentioning it. But Internet Hulk is no longer on Team Envious. He's left to join Laser Kittens, and on a trial basis as their head coach, which is both great, terrible, and inspiring and heartbreaking to hear all at one time.
The best, worst, weirdest, and most interesting and exciting news possible.
We could probably do an entire episode on just that alone. Maybe that's just because I'm that big of a fan of Internet Hulk's play.
And the fan of coaching.
Yeah, that's the worst part about it, is he's probably going to be a phenomenal coach, but I love watching him play. Like, his tank play was super fun, but he was playing Lucio anyways. So it was Monte Cristo said I think it was him that said, maybe it was somebody else, I don't know. The scene needs good coaching far more than it needs good Lucio players, and I don't disagree with that in the slightest. So it's great to see. Hopefully, we can see a noticeable increase in the play of Laser Kittens, who's kind of a new thing a little bit anyways at the moment.
It's definitely going to be interesting. It seems like they're taking the stance that a lot of these teams have taken, and really positioning themselves for Overwatch League, and setting up the infrastructure. Like, we've seen very little Laser Kittens. For what it's worth, we've seen very little NRG as well. So it's going to be interesting to see where these teams start to go. And another piece of news, actually, it doesn't have to do with this tournament, but I remembered, is that is it TSM now is back in Overwatch? They signed a team?
No, it's not TSM. I will get the name here. Just one second. It'll take me a moment. I'm not very familiar with them.
It's Evil Geniuses, not TSM. Evil Geniuses. I knew it was a League of Legends team. Yes, Evil Geniuses is now in. We will get more of the details on that in a little bit, but let's just go over the top 4 of this tournament. We saw really not too many surprises for the top 4. We saw Rogue, Envy, Selfless, and LG Evil in the top 4, which honestly I think if we were to just look at the full roster of teams at the beginning, we probably would have been pretty close to picking that top 4, honestly. I think most people would agree Rogue, Envy, and Selfless are kind of the top 3, and LG Evil has been making a pretty good argument that they're in that mix as well. But we saw the continued dominance of Rogue, beating Envy in the finals 3-2.
Yeah, 3-2 doesn't really tell the story on that either, because if Envy had been able to win that last map and win that best of 5, they would have had to have reset the bracket and run a best of 3 back against them and beat them again. So this is kind of the opposite of what Alienware. Right. This is kind of the opposite of what Alienware does when they give somebody an automatic. This is the opposite end of the spectrum. Like, we're not worried about running long. We're worried about getting the best result and doing the fairest thing possible. And there's probably a middle ground, I feel like, somewhere in between that. But nonetheless, bracket resets, if you're coming from another esport that you've been a fan of, I don't think it's an unfamiliar concept for people. So we won't go too deep on that. But so they were able to pick up the win in the best of five, and it was a really, really good best of five. There was a lot of really strong matches throughout this tournament, even in the group stages. At bare minimum, one of them ended up on stream that definitely stood out to me.
Yeah.
I'm blanking at the moment on what the teams were, but I know A. Smith made a note of it. Liquid versus Envy in the group stages was really, really, I mean, another one of those, we didn't just do the whole bloviating episode last week about how how great that match was, this one would have been right up in there in the conversation for the best we've seen. Recency bias does a lot of work with these matches. So take every time we say that with a grain of salt, because we're just remembering how awesome it was when we just saw it this past weekend. But make sure you go back and watch that nonetheless, because that was a really, really good matchup. And if you're sitting there wondering, is Team Liquid were they a flash in the pan? Was it a one-trick weekend or something like that? That match tells me everything I need to know. They're still a force to be reckoned with. They're still a team that has to be taken seriously, and I really look forward to seeing them continue to play as we get going, though I don't know what's coming up down the line, but I think we'll be talking about that soon if there is anything here.
Yeah, and I think, the match that everyone was waiting for, I think, obviously, was Rogue versus Envious. That's what we wanted to see, right? We wanted to see, is Envious still top dog? Can Rogue be stopped? The answer was no and no. We saw actually the finals preview match was actually played in the winners bracket finals, where Rogue just trounced Envious 2-0. It wasn't really even that close. But Envious came back, even though it actually looks closer than it was. It still was close. I mean, you can very easily lose 2-0 in the winners bracket finals, win back up, and just be like, what am I gonna do? And just roll over. But they put up a fight. I mean, granted, they would have had to put up an even bigger fight, but it's still nothing to sneeze at that Envious got second in this tournament. We had kind of questioned, like, is Envious going, like, what are the routes that Envious can go when they come back to NA? Are they going to be completely dominant after playing in Korea? Are they going to be a complete flop, like we kind of have seen Misfits be, in a way where they just don't work with the NA meta? Or are we going to kind of see something in the middle where they're still a very, very good team, but we've seen some of these what I would call second wave NA teams, like Rogue, like LG Evil, like Immortals, Selfless, like these second wave teams be very good and have even some surpass the old regime of Envious. And it's interesting. Right now, it doesn't seem like we're ever going to see anyone beat Rogue.
Yeah, they've definitely been really strong. They're kind of something the casters at the end of this tournament mentioned to me as they were going against Envious, really the record holder for the longest win streak. And they're kind of approaching that level, and they're getting kind of
30
close.
plus right now, I think, right? Like 35 and 0 or something like that.
It's close. I mean, it's been like 3 months, right? It's been 3 Alienware monthly melees since they've lost.
Now another tournament.
And we're starting to see, however, we're seeing the chinks in the armor. That it's definitely there, and they, against a lot of teams, they're not going to drop matches. And what's really, in my mind, remarkable as somebody that's running their dive comp, the fact that they do it everywhere, and they don't care what the map is or whatever. We do this, and we do this better than you do whatever you think is best anywhere. You can be as resourceful as you want, and they're really being rewarded for their lack of innovation. Not that they don't have the ability to play the other comps, they just haven't been forced to yet. Envy was one of the first ones that really made them probably even consider it very much, and they definitely did do a little switching. There's times they run Pharah in the dive comp, but it doesn't feel like it's in response to something. They're not doing it to solve a problem. They're almost just doing it to like break monotony, or there's a couple spots and a couple maps where they do really like it and they do prefer it. So they're not like blind to that. They're not actually just rolling it out 100% of the time, but there's nobody coming close to the percentages that they are as far as what they're playing.
Yeah, and it's interesting to think about, right? Because they are doing so well with this dive comp, But what happens when that's not so good anymore? Like, what if something gets nerfed? What if something gets changed? Like, is Rogue the one-trick pony of they're just so good with dive comp in the same way that Cloud9 used to be so good with double Winston, or these triple tank metas with complexity, or complexity kind of being, and ninjas in pajamas being super 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 good with triple tank, and then the meta changes drastically and it's like ninjas in pajamas is losing to like random scrubs on the streets like, and complexity fell off the face of the planet. What is Rogue just and maybe this is something about Overwatch, I don't know, are we going to find a team that is just so overall all around good and consistent that they can be like, okay, yeah, we're really good at dive comp. We're the masters of dive comp, but we're also very good at triple tank. We're also very good at 222, et cetera, et cetera. Like, are we going to see that team? Does that team exist? What's going on with that?
Yeah, and to give you an idea of how consistent they were with it, here's some of the pick rates. We only have about an hour's worth of footage. This is coming from Winston's lab. This is basically the time they spent on camera, so that definitely makes sense. But 100% Tracer, 100% Winston, 98.57% Zenyatta. Then there was 85% Lucio. So this is really, really, this is basically a full commitment to the dive. If they're never not running the Winston. So there's times they're running a slightly different variation of dive, whether they bring in a diva for a second tank, bring in the Pharah, which allows them to, Mercy was at 0%. So even when they're running the Pharah, they're not committing to the Mercy. There was a little bit of Sombra, and like I said, there, obviously there's a good portion of Soldier 76 here as well, and Genji. But so there's only one or two players doing really any flexibility whatsoever on this team at the moment, and they've been unstoppable. So obviously they found some success. To answer your question, we've seen them do other things already. They've just went on a little break for a bit and then came back and now are only running dives. So it's clearly that they think it's right, because we've seen them play other compositions and do other things. Even their supports are very versatile, and they do flex between them a little bit. When you want to have, let's see, when Wins is on Zenyatta, that means Unco's playing Ana, I think is how it works for them. So they have guys that both play the same support. Zenyatta at 98%, that's probably the case, right? So whenever they did go to the Ana, the other player picked it up, and they have a lot of flexibility to them. They're just not showing it right now, which I don't know if that's scary for everyone else or for them, because they got to be less practiced on it. So if they were ever to do anything to nerf dive comp, I would really expect there to be a drop off from Rogue, but not too far, and they're gonna come back. They're going to get back into the swing of things, but it might not even be there, because we don't know what they're doing with their scrim time. They might not be scrimming as dive at all. For all we know. I doubt that's the case, but if they're spending half their time running triple tank and 222, and then 50% on their main comp, that would be very good for them in the sense of being able to adapt when they're forced to. They just haven't really been forced to, because only so often do they play against Taimu on McCree. Holy smokes, that was incredible to watch. If that last match in the finals, the Mick left click of Taimu was really, really impressive, and kind of became like their staple, which is something we haven't seen any team do for any reason really in quite some time. So that was another fun reason to go watch that final if you didn't see it.
Yeah, watching Taimu play DPS, hit scan heroes, just at any time, even those videos of him playing Mercy, just so entertaining to watch. It's just so fun to watch those, for lack of a better word, carries happen in Overwatch. We rarely see them at pro level. And yeah, I think it would be good for Rogue. And even though you can't see the video right now, I'm rocking my Rogue jersey right now. So obviously I'm rooting for Rogue. Hashtag 100% biased. But it would be very scary to think that they're only spending half of their time practicing the comp that they're so good with. But I've read interviews, or at least clips of, Rogue's, the team's philosophy of like, yeah, we're going to take this very seriously, and we're going to watch the tape, and we're going to be practicing the small things and working on the small things, because like I think they understand that, like, yeah, the little, or the concepts are all there. Like, every pro player knows that the basic concepts, and every pro player has a certain level of skill for the most part. But it's the little things, the positionings, the knowing when to switch heroes, the like knowing exactly how far, how deep you can go, how much damage you can take on the dive comp, who you need to focus, all that good stuff, and really focusing on that. It would be insane to think that they have that level of expertise with other comps as well. I'm just like, it would blow my mind. But I'm hoping that it is the case.
Yeah, they're on record as saying that's not the only bullet in our gun. It's just the only one we've needed to use. So that's from them. I
Yeah.
don't know exactly who said that. I just hearing casters talk about it and things like that. So we'll have to see when they need it, but they haven't needed it yet. And for the time being, especially when you look, and we're going to talk about this more later, the meta right now is super well balanced. It's
Mhm.
very diverse. Almost everything's viable. At least everything that should be viable is viable. So it's been really interesting and fun to watch so far. But we'll have to see, if they're forced off of it, and I'm really curious what forces them off of it. Not even so much the who, but like what comp is it,
Yeah.
that's supposed to beat this? Because I mean, a lot of people say triple tank. What I'll say is this: is if you go against an equally skilled triple tank versus
Dive.
dive, the more coordinated team wins.
Yeah.
I don't think one counters the other. I really don't. I think you just have one that's able to get the call outs out, and it feels like a counter either way, because there's something about dive comp. No matter which way the match goes, it feels lopsided. Like when my
Yeah.
team runs dive and we lose, it's like the other team's talking smack. Like, it's how you lose. You either are better and more coordinated than them, or you're not. And when you dive in, it's just like, throwing water at a brick wall. You just crush, fall to the ground. You don't do anything. You have no impact whatsoever. So it's really hit or miss, and that's why they look so strong, because they're not missing.
Yeah. I mean, it's the difference between an offensive strategy versus like a more defensive or conservative strategy, like triple tank. Like triple tank is, besides like Roadhog hooks, is really not going to look super dominant, right? 'Cause it's a very slow, grindy sort of push, and I think that's a lot of the reason why people hated it so much. Is
Yeah, you're
that
like stuck with the only exciting moment is the Reinhardt hammer down, and
the Reinhardt
it
hammer
feels
down
like
or
that's
the
it.
insane like Himsy hook, but those are few and far between.
Yeah,
Uh,
nano visors commonplace at this point. It's like, and
yeah,
it's hard to have a wow moment with literal auto aim. Like,
yeah,
you just an aimbot, literal.
yep.
So
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how Rogue. I mean, what's really interesting now is like Rogue is going to Korea, which of note is the reason why we didn't get Rogue wins or AKM on the show. We actually did reach out to Frank, the president of Rogue, to try to get someone from Rogue on the show, but they are literally in Korea right now.
yeah, they were probably still in flight at the moment, but
Yeah.
a week from today, the first match of season 3 starts, and that's the only thing on the future calendar at the moment, on the Gosu website. So we'll have to keep an eye out for that, because that's all we're gonna, potentially all we're gonna have to watch for a little bit. But hopefully, Alienware could potentially be, in not next weekend, but the weekend after, at the soonest.
Hmm.
So we'll have to see. But other than that, I don't know what else is on the schedule, so it might be a little late.
Of note, the Rivalcade actually does weekly tournaments. I found out
Yes.
on
Yes.
Tuesdays. So, uh, you know, right now that's what I'm thinking we might be covering next week. If you guys have any tournaments that you know of that are relatively high caliber, have some good teams, or even just some good matchups, let us know. We're going to be keeping our eye out. This is kind of the first week that I remember in a while where there's just absolutely nothing.
Yeah, there was times I like couldn't remember what it was, but I knew there was something. But yeah, it's been
Well, I
probably a
mean,
couple months
there's
since
always been
since
at
anything.
least Apex.
Right.
For a long time now.
Yeah,
Now,
those 2 matches.
yeah, I mean, but it was at least something.
Right.
But now, maybe we're just missing something. But if we are, let us know. Um, but yeah, so yeah, let's move right along. We got kind of a smaller episode today. But we did. Oh, yes, guys, I wanted to remind everyone of something. We are we are still trying to get to BlizzCon 2017. If you guys do either know anyone with tickets or have extra tickets yourselves or know anything about the ability to get extra tickets to BlizzCon, let us know. Tweet at High Noon Podcast or tweet at _Blevins on Twitter. Email us, go to the website, in some way reach out to us because we are looking for between 2 and 5 tickets.
We'll take what we can get. If you got any number, we'll likely snap them up.
Yeah, we'll likely snap them up at very little questions asked. And yeah, the other thing is that I'm thinking now, maybe even next week, we are going to be moving the show over to twitch.tv/High Noon Podcast. Currently, we do the show live every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern ish. Twitch.tv/The Blevins. We're going to be moving the show over to twitch.tv/High Noon Podcast. So if you're not already following the podcast on Twitch, go ahead and do it. We did it's a little bit in reverse order, but we do actually have a new iTunes review, Death.
Yes, we do. Yeah. And if you guys are noticing, we're moving a lot of this housekeeping stuff to the end of the show. Basically, right as we're about to wrap up is when we're going to be, throwing these out there. So it's in response to feedback that it wasn't directed at us, but we found it on Reddit nonetheless. So, we're trying to improve the show in any way that we possibly can, and I promise it's not because this is our first non-5-star review that we've ever gotten that we're doing. We're not burying it because of that, but this is a 3-star review from, I have it in a much more legible version right here, DannyMan315. Great show, bad audio levels. The show is informative and hilarious, but the inconsistency in volume can make the show a challenging listen sometimes. It seems like someone is always almost inaudibly quiet or someone is significantly louder than the other. Said with love. Read with love, my friend. Really, really appreciate the feedback. This is something that we know we've struggled with and something we've taken steps to actively improve upon. So when we're having the problems, Danny, if you do stick with us, we would obviously love to get this resolved, and we will continue to make improvements and do anything we possibly can to make us sound more professional, just in the boldest way possible, or in the whatever, in the most upfront way possible.
Yeah.
We just want to get it to sound like we're not recording, like we're in your room with you talking. So anything we can do, if you have suggestions, obviously that's not on you, but if there's an episode where it's bad, please draw our attention to it. If it's just a single spot in an episode, we don't always listen all the way. If you haven't ever tried to listen to a recording of your own voice, it's basically torturing yourself. So I try not to listen to every single episode, or at least the entirety of it. We do spot check and we do some audio tests, but we've gotten a little lazy with it lately. We thought this was completely behind us. We haven't known of any issues for a little while, so please do point them out to us. Patrons especially, you guys have that direct line to us. Can't thank you enough for any time you can tell us. Hey, this episode notwithstanding, there were outside issues that forced Blevins to a different microphone. We understand there are problems with this episode. From a technical side, we don't think it's too bad, but it's not going to sound as good as it has lately. Blevins, you want to tell them what you're doing over there so maybe they can build a little hype for it to get better?
Oh, yeah. So I'm trying to make a little bit of a podcast and stream studio. So I actually right now have a green screen behind me, but it's not set up appropriately. I need to get some string or something to get it up. But I'm gonna have a green screen. I'm gonna have a little like studio type of thing, and I'm gonna be streaming more often for sure now. I don't know if you guys have seen the Twitch affiliate program thing, but it's basically the long and short of it is you don't need to be partnered to make money from Twitch, like actual from Twitch. I mean, you can always make donations, but it's like basically baby partnership at a very easy to attain goal.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's actually pretty sweet. Right now, it like I meet all the requirements except for the like you need to have streamed a certain amount of a certain amount of unique streams and a certain amount of minutes in the last 30 days, which I don't have because the once a week podcast is not enough to meet those requirements. But it's actually not that far off, honestly.
Yeah.
But like all the like the follower requirements and the other stuff is already met on my end. So like that's all I need, and then you can get a thing, and you can start getting bits, which granted is not a lot, and it's not going to make your stream easier, and it's not going to make it easier for you to get people to watch your stream. I don't think. Well, maybe it will. I don't know. Maybe they'll promote you more or something. But it's a small step, but it's a really good step towards streaming. So I am going to be streaming more often over at twitch.tv/thebuffins. I did stream a little bit. I streamed the placement matches, which was nice. And both Death and myself got new tablets that can be used for streaming if need be.
For streaming Star Wars Force Arena.
I have actually been streaming Star Wars Force Arena. It is quite good.
Yes, and I'm actually considering. I'm going to be shopping for and thinking about a new video card, one that'll help me to be able to stream some Overwatch better. I've been putting in a ton of hours into the game lately, so it would be nice to kind of get that going, just to turn the stream on while I'm doing it. The third account will be great for on stream because I can just relax and solo queue and literally not mind at all whatever happens. I can take requests for what hero to play, things like that, and I think it would be really cool to kind of have like a stream account. Maybe even I'll just leave it for stream only, and extreme cases of needing to carry people or boost people. But I'd love to know like what I can do on stream with like people telling me what to play a little bit and things like that, and seeing where I could get. I think that would be fun. So.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be fun. I mean, I think this is the little carrot that I've needed for a long time to just actually stream and do it consistently. Even though it's really not going to affect anything that I'm doing whatsoever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this is going to be one of the shorter ones, but I think that's all we've got in terms of big stuff. Is there anything else that we wanted to throw in here, Death?
No, I was going to want to deep dive a little bit more into some numbers and the percentages about what comps people are going to do. What are we at time-wise?
We got plenty of time.
What are we at, though?
42 right now.
42. Yeah, we can. I was going to think we should maybe save it for next week just because we don't have anything on the agenda, and I wouldn't want to like take a week off right away or anything like that if it's needed. So I don't know. I'll leave it up to you. Do you want to take a look at the percentages or save it?
Yeah, you know what? Why don't we just run through it real quick now, and then we'll figure something out for next week too.
Sure. Yeah, we can deep dive into some more stats or look at some specific team stats. That might be a good idea too.
Or another thing we could do is we could leave it 100% wide open to the fans to tweet at us what they want us to talk about next week. Like 100% fan and listener episode of like, okay, talk about this. It can be about anything. I don't know. We'll see.
We're always open to suggestions and ideas, and since we're facing, why don't you guys just do that anyways? And we'll see if there's anything that we decide that we really want to cover in depth while we have the opportunity, and we might use that as like a supplement for the next couple weeks or something like that. But nonetheless, send us any ideas, any topics you want to hear talked about or discussed when we have the opportunity or downtime with episodes like this right now, where clearly we're thinking about ending a little bit early, but looking for things to discuss. So first thing that we look at when we look at these numbers, and again, these are the streamed matches from the event this weekend, all taken from winstonslab.com. Check them out if you haven't, especially if you're a stats junkie like a fantasy football player or something like that. Is you look at the quad tank, and there is almost none of it. Team Liquid, it broke it out a little bit, but just 0.13, like a negligible percentage of the field was running quad tank. I think everybody supports that. You don't really want to have nobody playing damage dealing characters. Like, that just doesn't even sound right to say out loud. So I think it's a positive that that's not really super viable at the moment. For the rest of it, you have triple tank 222 and triple DPS. Triple DPS is pretty broad, but for the most part, it means dive. It probably means you're just running Winston, and you're going from there. That would be all varieties of it, though. So there could be some outlier matches where you have just a Reinhardt, or something like that. So it's kind of lumped in there. But for the most part, I think dive when I see triple DPS at the moment. But for triple tank, it took up 42.13% of the overall metagame, which is definitely the biggest portion, by not double or anything like that. Like I said, it's very diverse here. But you have
10%
teams
difference.
Yeah, it's a very small difference as you kind of step down the tiers. Some of the bigger teams running this, obviously CLG, they didn't really make it out of the group stages, so we'll throw that out for the time being. But Rise Nation ran a lot of triple tank. They were in at 82%. You have Selfless Gaming at 85%. So one of the big ones, clearly favoring the triple tank setup and running it with very effective results lately as well. LG Evil came in at 50% there, so they're using it quite a bit, but it is their favorite composition, but it's just right about at half of their total play. They're playing 20% 222 and 29% triple DPS or dive. So they're showing more flexibility than people thought they had. When they were doing really well in quad and triple tank era, people thought that was the only bullet in their gun, and that didn't turn out to be the case. So great to see variety from them. Now they just need to get the results back up there where they were, but there was a lot of teams out at the time, and I think they're still doing well and still getting better. So an exciting team to watch going forward. Other teams that favored it, let's see. NRG played it a lot, 58%, but it's 58% of not very much, as they went 0-3 in the group stages and were eliminated.
Yep.
But nonetheless, the sheer quality of players on the team, the fact that when they met together and decided that triple tank was the best thing to run most of the time, I think that's definitely noteworthy as well.
Yeah, I mean, without going into the specific, like even taking a step back and looking at this meta game as a whole, I think if for no other reason you can make the argument that this is one of the most diverse metas we've seen. If you look at the top four of this tournament, Rogue, Envy, Selfless, LG Evil, you've got Rogue at mostly triple DPS. You've got Envy at basically 50-50 between triple tank and 222. And then you see Selfless at mostly triple tank, and then LG Evil is like a complete mix of the three. So like you have rock, paper, scissors. You have one team that's mostly rock, one team that's like 50-50 papers and scissors. Then you've got one team that's mostly scissors, and then you've got one team that's playing a little bit of rock, a little bit of paper, a little bit of scissors, and they're the top four. So I think for any game, you rarely see the top four spots be this diverse, unless you're looking at like legacy tournament in Magic the Gathering or modern or something. But even then, there's still legacy is almost always diverse because there's so much you can play. But modern even usually will have like the deck to beat, or a deck of the tournament or whatever, and there will be like it'll be skewed like 40% of the meta is this, and then the next closest is like 20, and then this is like the top four teams all played the full gambit of the rock, paper, and scissors in varying amounts, like across the 4 of them. So it's actually like I think a testament to how good the meta is right now.
Yeah, and to bring the MTG analogies full circle, Rogue's on that combo deck too.
Yep.
That is by far doing the best at the tournament, but has the least amount of people playing it.
Yep.
I really like I really like that as well.
Yep.
It's the only other team that broke the 50% barrier and clearly favored triple DPS and dive was Envision Overwatch. And again, not a team that cleared the group stages.
Yep.
So it is a small sample size, but even them, they were at 50%. And you have Rogue at 82% triple DPS. So moving on, though, the teams that did favor the 2-2-2 was Envy. They came in at about 60%. We had Cloud9 again at 54%. Team Liquid at 58%. Gale Force Esports almost 70%. So there's clearly a lot of variety here and a lot of ability to adapt to play styles. And there's maybe not the most hero diversity, but not the least either by a long shot.
Yeah.
Obviously, when you're able to run but within those different subdivisions and those different compositions that the teams are running, there's some consistency there, but there is definitely. We saw McCree come back a little bit. He'd been a bit absent lately, and Taimu brought him back. We're not yet seeing the Junkrat, but you have teams that are willing to run the Torbjorn, teams that aren't. There's a lot to be said for the state of the game right now.
Yeah, we've even seen some Orisa at points too.
Yeah, she's been brought in to run environment kill duty, so she's hunting for boops. And mostly on Nepal Sanctum is where I've definitely seen the most of her, but that's a great spot for the game to be in. If single points on single maps are the only spot for a hero, well, great. That means the map's unique and the hero's unique and has a role, and there'll be a map later on down the line where you can bring her in again, or there'll be a slight balance change that brings her in elsewhere. So I don't think that's a bad thing at all. It would be great to see Junkrat find a bit of a home. But other than that, I'd say the game is in a really, really strong spot right now. Heck, we're seeing Hanzo from Cloud9 quite a bit. Almost anything is viable at the moment, for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of maps coming down the line, we did actually get another post on the forums by Jeff Kaplan saying that they have, I believe it was 3 standard like competitive maps in the works that are past their like initial testing phase that are probably going to come out this year. He said there's a couple of non-traditional maps that I think he was referring to, like either arcade mode maps or maybe event maps or something. And then he said there was a couple of other I think he said like wild cards or something. So it would be interesting. I mean, 3 more maps is definitely huge, right? Like it's going to shake up the meta. Who knows what it could be. And with Oasis and the even though it hasn't really affected much, but the knowing that they are willing to put things like jump pads into the map, maybe we could see something kind of wacky in these maps.
Yeah, and I don't know. I really want to see a new payload map. I think would be a lot of fun since it's a game mode that I feel like is almost getting drowned out by all the new additions. When they added in Ilios and Oasis, that really just inadvertently, I feel like, made King of the Hill be played much more frequently in the competitive scene. So I would really love to see both payload and hybrid really expanded upon, maybe for the sake of, I don't mind 2CP as much as the average person, but maybe hold off on new additional 2CP maps for the time being.
Yeah, I mean, they did fix or at least change the 2CP tie rules though, which is nice.
Yeah, I really don't like it though.
Isn't it better than what it was though? It used to be like you needed to get 1 additional percentage. Now you need to get at least 33%.
To me, no, but I wasn't somebody that like was super tilted by the draws or anything like that. I wasn't the person they needed to appease or do anything for
Okay.
with this particular change. I think on the overall, people are probably happier about it. I just think when you get to the point where somebody's full held, and whether it's my team, whether it's not my team, it is just a miserable experience to have 1 second decide it.
Yeah.
Like just an instant, like it's just, oh, and Sombra's invisible and she's there and it's over. Like you made me wait how long in spawn picking my team? You made me wait how long for the defense to set up? Like how much time you want to make the games move at a quicker pace? You can cut that out completely and not just be all for nothing for 1 instant. Like they just make it about ticks, please. Just if one team gets a tick and the other one, you don't have to get rid of draws completely. I play a lot of games where there's draws. We both play Clash Royale. There's plenty of draws there.
Sure.
It doesn't, they don't have to be gone, but when one mode ends in a draw, and it feels like it happens as often as it doesn't happen, there's probably a problem. So they needed to make it better. They didn't need to completely strike draws from the game whatsoever. I think they paid too steep of a price to do that.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I think for tournament play, draws are pretty awful, just logistically.
You want to watch 1 second on stream? You want to? I think
No,
that's
but
what
I
looks
mean,
the worst.
I'm not even saying from the viewer perspective. I'm thinking
Oh,
from the tournament organizer perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. They're just so afraid to run the map back. Like if they were less frequent when they came up to just run it back again, it would be way more entertaining, in my opinion. But I don't know. I don't have to deal with casters that are casting for 12 hours at a time and exhausted and can't see straight. That's a whole different perspective and conversation.
I mean, if you think about it like this, like if in Magic, if there was either no time limits or every time there was a draw because of time, they just ran back the match, like that would be awful. Even if it was like a quicker match.
I don't know. That's why it would be nice if there was some way to just decide it in an abbreviated fashion on the same map. My only problem with using the
1v1,
right? We talked about how disjointed it is, and this was a long time ago, but how it just feels weird to be like, okay, and the winner of this Hanamura map is decided on Lijiang Tower.
Yeah.
Like that just to me is too weird. Like I wish something else could be different, but I don't think my solution, which I prefer it, I don't think that's right either. I don't know. Maybe the correct solution doesn't exist.
They play 1v1 Widow, first to 3 kills on whatever map they're on.
Fox only, Final Destination.
Yeah, that's what it should be. No items, Fox only, Final Destination.
Yeah. Take it to Brawl. Might as well.
You mean Melee?
Not if you played it when I did.
Oh God, you're filthy casual. You basically just admitted that you're a console player.
No, I mean I played both. That was one of the only games. One of the only games. They were both phenomenal. I just played whichever one was newer at the time.
Everyone hated Brawl except for me and apparently you. But I will never admit that I'm terrible at Melee. I was way better at Brawl, but Melee is like very clearly the professional game.
I prefer Melee for sure, but I had no problems with Brawl. I didn't think it was bad by any stretch.
Tripping, bro. Tripping. But I think we've sufficiently rambled on. Let's wrap it up here. Is there anything else that we want to talk about or go over at all, Dev?
Nothing for this week. Shout outs to Live the Battle, though. We've been talking about their tournament all day, and here they are in chat. So definitely humbled to have you guys here watching the live stream. So normally we don't shout out chat, but I mean, come on, it's them. It's them. So we've got to.
That is true. Thank you for showing up right at the end of the show. Perfect time.
And they're contributing on the time. From our standpoint for ties, we don't mind running a best of 3 on a Koth map. Would prefer that rather than 1% cap on control point. Yeah, I 100% agree with you.
Tournament organizer agrees with Deathblow.
Yeah, to me that's like the worst possible the worst possible way to decide it is by 1%. I do think it's a good idea though. I'd like to see it potentially be about ticks. I'd at least like to try it, but there's no function for any tournaments to try that and then implement that. That would have to come from Blizzard. They would have to put that functionality.
So you said that's the worst possible method, but what if they did like Hanzo target practice to end the map? I think that would be worse.
I really like Hanzo.
It's like we just played this great 40-minute set and ended up in a draw. Now we're going to do one round of Hanzo target practice to finish off this map.
Perfect. Just do it on the same map and I'm happy.
And fired. Yeah, that is going to be all, guys. Huge thanks for everyone who stuck around through this little bit of a lighter episode with some technical difficulties. This is the grind, though, boys. This is the grind. We're coming up on 70 episodes. Can you believe that? We're close to 70 episodes. Oh, and I forgot to mention, though I don't mind mentioning it now at the end, now that we're putting some of our housekeeping stuff, we finally got to 1,000 followers.
Yes. So thank you to everybody that followed us on Twitter. Definitely a big milestone for us.
Yeah.
Really, really appreciate it. And I look forward to 2,000.
Yeah, I look forward to 100 million.
Yes.
Not
take
really,
that, Siegel.
That would basically just ruin the Twitter account. So, yeah, I'm fine going in smaller chunks. But, yeah, definitely thanks to everyone who did follow. And if you guys are listening either on iTunes or in YouTube World or years down the line after we're all long and dead, head on over to High Noon Podcast on Twitter and throw us a follow. We definitely post all the episodes and stuff there, and all the good links.
And remember, we're going to be streaming from twitch.tv/High Noon Podcast starting probably next week or very, very soon. So make sure you head over there and follow it. If you do watch the live stream at all ever or are interested in maybe checking it out, make sure you give that Twitch channel a follow.
Yes, that is going to be great. But that is going to be it, guys. Huge thanks to all the patrons over at patreon.com/HighNoonPodcast. If you want to support the show in a monetary fashion, you can do that over there. You will get exclusive access to the patron-only Discord where we have all sorts of great discussions and stuff, and Overwatch Today's there, and it's great. As well as a number of good other fans as well. Huge thanks to Matcherino for the Season 1 support and our SoundCloud brought to you by them. You can check us out over everything, as always, is over at highnoonpodcast.com. So check that out there. But, oh, yes, and huge thanks to Adam Hoek, who made the awesome outro music, which you're about to hear in just a couple seconds. But, guys, that is it. I am the Blevins for Deathblow. Remember, guys, it is High Noon.
Got his boots and he put on his hat. He threw the coin away that same day. It's in his past and he's not looking back. He says, finding mine now guides my way. He's not good, but he sure ain't bad. He'll make amends for the sins that he has. He says, I'll change the world one bullet at a time till I find mine.
Don't worry, guys. We made Blevins great again.